I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, degenerate sleuths of the night. We gather to boldly go where others have refused. Welcome to the DT show, you salty mofos.
A man accused of killing 4 college students is behind bars, and he has ties to northeastern and central Pennsylvania. State police say 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger was arrested this morning at a home in Chestnut Hill Township.
I can't find any case law that would support that idea. That somehow a warrant would be needed for DNA left at a crime scene.
We are expected to learn more about the allegations against the girlfriend of a Boston police officer who was found unresponsive in the snow Saturday morning. I-Team sources say Karen Reed was in a relationship with John O'Keefe. She's facing charges including motor vehicle homicide and manslaughter.
So, the Commonwealth just provided the court with information that causes me grave concern. The implications of that information may have profound effects on this defense and defense counsel.
So, get your popcorn ready and your choice of drink. Get your butt on your seat. Like, comment, and subscribe for a treat. Here we go. It's time for the show. The Drunk Turkey Show.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Hope everybody's having a great night. Let me turn everything up. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. Hit the like button if I sound all right. If I don't, let me know in the comment section. But like, comment, subscribe. You guys know what to do. Before we get into our conversation of the day, I want to remind you guys of our partnership with DataSeal. If you have any concerns about your personal information being out there on the interweb, whether it's your name, address, phone number, voting preference, religious preference, those type of things, make sure you check out DataSeal. They'll wipe all that stuff off the interweb. Get a 5% discount when you check out the link in the description below. All righty, guys. So we got a lot of stuff coming in today. A lot of new information in the Bryan Kohberger case. We're going to take this one step at a time. We're going to look at some of the documents that were dropped, and then we're going to look at some information that has been released by, I believe it's Dateline. There's an episode tomorrow on Dateline covering the Idaho murders. If you guys aren't members, I highly suggest you become a member because you can do it for just 99 cents. It doesn't cost too much. You can hit the join button. If you don't see the join button, if you're on an iPhone, check out the link in the description. It says become a member. There's a little link there. You click on that, become a member, go to the community page, go to the Drunk Turkey page, and from there you'll find a link for the Discord. And tomorrow night, what we're going to do is we're going to actually have a watch party with the Discord. I'm going to play the Discord. I'm going to play the actual show on Discord. We have a way of doing it so that way it's not a black screen. It's going to be the actual program itself in its entirety. I'm only going to interrupt during the commercial breaks and things of that nature to talk about what it is that they spoke on. And so you're going to see my commentary on things and things of that nature. There's a lot of information that's coming out of it, including some information about Bryan Kohberger's phone. And we're going to touch a little bit about what's already been put out there tonight, but they go more in depth in those things. They're also going to look at the video from the 1112 King Road light camera, and I have that actually on its way. I haven't gotten an opportunity to see it, but I'm actually have that on its way. and I'll be able to show you guys after tomorrow night's presentation. I'm not sure if I'm going to go live immediately afterwards or if I'm going to go maybe live Saturday morning, but I intend on going live around one of those days and show some of, if not all of, the 1112 King Road light. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe, because that's going to be for everybody. The watch party on the program that NBC has out tomorrow night, that's just going to be on the Discord. It's not going to be on anywhere else, and it's only for members. But we will break down the camera footage from 1112 King Road. Now, in full disclosure, I have no intention on playing the audio portion of the 1112 King Road camera where between the hours that the crime is happening, out of respect for the family members and out of respect for the victims. Now, if obviously Dateline shows that and Dateline has that out there and it's already information that's out, that's a different thing. But if Dateline does not play that section of that video, neither will I. And so I just, full disclosure, letting you guys know that. All righty, without further ado, let's break it down. Let's get into this. Let me see. So we have a few documents that have been brought out. I don't know if anybody saw that video I put out over the past couple days ago now. It was referencing what that secret hearing was. We already know it had to do with Bryan Kohberger's family members being allowed in court. They're going to allow them in court. The question was, there's an exclusionary rule. And what that exclusionary rule is that those that are testifying as witnesses can't be present during the trial until after they're called. When it comes to Bryan Kohberger's family members, it does have a certain appearance if he doesn't have anybody on his side. And so, and in efforts to not prejudice him, they are going to allow his family members to be in the courtroom. And a big part of this is the fact that they are going to testify for the state. However, their testimony is narrowed down to a couple of different things. Now, I don't know exactly what it is they're going to ask them, obviously, but we can kind of deduce a few things that we know they are going to ask them. And it's going to be about the purchase of the K-bar knife and it being purchased around March 20th and its delivery within 10 days of that purchase. Bryan Kohberger has stated that just because there's an item purchased by him with his name using his bank account delivered to his address with his name doesn't mean that he's the one that actually had received the item of the K-bar knife. Somebody else in that household could have. And so now they need to ask everybody in that household, did you receive it? Was it yours? Did you pick it up? Do you have it? Do you know its location? Do you know where it's at? Those type of things. The other thing is whatever interviews that they had, whether it be at the scene or afterwards, have been recorded. So if they try to misshape their testimony in any way to fit the evidence, they're going to be able to purge them based on the information that they have. So not a big deal given the scope of what it is that they're going to ask them. I do think that one of the Kohberger sisters was more cooperative than others. And I believe that they're going to testify to a lot of different things, including, the gloves, the, behaviors of Bryan Kohberger's after the murders that were unlike his behavior prior to. How about also the purchase of the K-bar knife? That specific time frame, that 10-day period, that's more than just somebody seeing him with a knife. Because seeing him with a knife only gives you one date. That just means that the knife was purchased before that day. It doesn't tell you a range of when it was purchased. It just gives you the end date or the end range. It doesn't give you the beginning range of when you should search. To have a 10-day window, that specific should speak volumes to people. All right, so that one was that. The next one was going to be referencing the examination and extension of the deadline of Bryan Kohberger. And so Bryan Kohberger's defense team had a psychologist and a doctor look at Bryan Kohberger and evaluate him, and they've come up with a couple of diagnoses for him: ASD, OCD, and a few others. Now, I obviously were aware and understood that because of putting this in there, they were going to leave the door open for Bryan Kohberger to be evaluated by a state's witness, and they are going to evaluate him. Now, I think where the state messed up is that they put in their document here that they were going to try to rule out other mental conditions that Bryan Kohberger may have, thus exciting a potential fishing expedition for, well, at least that's what the defense is claiming, a potential fishing expedition to find other things. But I just find it peculiar, and I broke this down in the video that I put out there the other day, is that Bryan Kohberger's argument is that since they didn't do personality testing and they only did specific tests, that the state should only be allowed to do those specific tests to rebut him. The problem with that is, and the example that I used is somebody that has an infection. If somebody comes in with an infection and there's a, blood work that you can do to determine what type of infection he has, but this person doesn't want to do the blood work because they're afraid of what else could be found in the blood work, including ruling out the infection that they are, this person is anticipating of having. I don't like it. I think that if you open up that box, you open up that door saying that you have certain conditions, verifying those conditions should be something that they can do. And, utilizing certain tests that are more accurate in determining, especially when you have a, what's the word I'm looking for? A diagnosis of like ASD, where it's the least severe of ASD, and perhaps some of the symptoms could bleed into other things. And maybe perhaps because of the scope of their interview with Bryan Kohberger, or the lack thereof of actually being able to test him for specific things and doing further testing, it probably leads for a high margin of error. And so, I don't know. I think you open that door, you should be able to take what comes with it. Just like when they moved to, from Moscow to Boise, he got what he wanted. That also came with a new judge. And I'm sure a lot of people on the defense side are probably regretting that decision big time. All right, so let's see. We have a couple of other new documents, and then we're going to get into the new evidence. This new document is motion to seal the reply in support of the state's motion for examination of the defendant pursuant to Idaho Code for extension time, complete rebuttal penalty phase, expert disclosure. Given now the state of Idaho, and order sealing the state's reply in support of the motion for examination of the defendant pursuant to Idaho Code and for an extension of time, complete rebuttal penalty phase, expert disclosures filed therein for reasons. And so basically they're just sealing this because it reveals mental health information about Bryan Kohberger, including a psychological, psychiatric, and neurological information and diagnosis of the defendant, and which some of the personal testing he objects. That's basically what that says. So they sealed that. Nothing too crazy. This one's interesting. State's notice of penalty phase lay witness and request for victim impact statements. Hence now the state of Idaho hereby provides notice that the state does not intend to call any lay witness during the penalty phase. Rather, the state intends on to rely on testimony and evidence admitted during the guilt phase. The state does intend to afford victims the opportunity to present their impact statements during the penalty phase. So the victim's family members are going to be able to talk. That's going to be after he is found guilty on all 5 counts, 4 counts of murder, 1 count of burglary, or felony burglary. And so they'll be able to do their statements there. Let me pull this up real quick. I meant to do this and I completely forgot. Give me 1 second. Let's see. I meant to do this. Let's see. All righty. And this is the aggravators. So the reasons why the aggravators that the state are going to rely on to for the death penalty is that at the time of the murder was committed, the defendant also committed another murder, so more than one. The murder was especially heinous, atrocious, and cruel, manifesting exceptionally depravity. And so I think right here also you have the fact where you have Dylan say, Dylan say that she hears somebody say, "I'm here to help you," giving a false sense of false pretense of safety or misunderstanding and try to confuse, and then obviously committing the ultimate crime with that. And so maybe perhaps that would fall under especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity. Third, by the murder or circumstances surrounding its commission, the defendant exhibited utter disregard for human life. Obviously, that's clear and obvious in this case. And number four, the defendant, by his conduct, whether such conduct was before, during, or after the commission of the murder at hand, has exhibited a propensity to commit murder, which will probably constitute a continuing threat to society. And I think they're going to look at the fact that he was looking at K-bar knives after the murders. Why didn't he purchase one? Let's think about that. He started getting followed probably around December 12th. He was paranoid. He left the knife sheath behind. After committing a crime like that, and the it gaining the attention of not just America but the entire world, probably weighed in a lot of pressure on him. And so he probably was looking out to see if anybody was following him, looking out for law enforcement type vehicles. And if they got his name December 12th, the FBI, that is, and they were following him since then, and he gets pulled over in Indiana twice, maybe that's the reason why. Now, I don't think the Indiana stops had anything to do with the investigation, but he doesn't know that, obviously. So in his mind, he's probably thinking, they want to look at me. They want to check me out. There's something here. So maybe this is the reason why I prevented him from purchasing another knife. However, is that the reason why they think that he was going to be a continuing threat to society? I think that's a good possibility. All right. Okay, so let's see. This continues to say that the state does not intend to afford the victims the opportunity to present, does intend to afford the victims the opportunity to present impact statements during the penalty phase. Idaho Constitution, Idaho Code guarantee victims' right to be heard. Upon request at all criminal justice proceedings considering sentencing, state moves for immediate family members identified in State Exhibit S1 attached states motion to eliminate immediate family members in the courtroom filed on the 24th of February 2025 to be allowed to present victim impact statements during the penalty phase in the above title case. And they're going to be doing that. I guarantee you there's going to be some powerful victim statements during that penalty phase. I mean, if you've seen, this is just one of four families who, obviously there was more families who were infected by this. I do think that the surviving roommates are victims as well. But I think more than just that. I think that more than just Steve and Christy are going to speak. You're going to have Ethan's family come and now they're saying that they're going to show up and they're going to represent Ethan. And I'm sure they're going to have something to say at this impact statement. You have Maddie's family. You have Xana's family as well, along with Kaylee's family. And so if we've seen just Steve do a couple of interviews and how impactful those interviews were, actually being there and having, the unity of all the other family members there as well, that's going to be even more powerful. This guy definitely messed with the wrong bunch of people. That's for dang sure. All right, let's continue. Motion to seal defendants phase 2 mitigation witness list. Bryan Kohberger moves the court for an order to seal the defendants phase 2 motion mitigation witness list, and they're going to give it to him. That's what that one is, and that's what the next one is, that they're going to do that. The next one is order sealing reply in support of state's motion for examination of defendant. And based on the state's motion to seal reply in state's motion to examine the defendant and for an extension of time, complete rebuttal penalty phase expert disclosure here then are exempt from disclosure and is sealed. So anything that's going to have to do with Bryan Kohberger's mental status is going to be sealed. That's just the ands, its, or buts about it, guys. All right. Before I get into the new evidence and the stuff that was just come out, let's answer a few questions and look at a couple of super chats. And first thing I want to say is, wow, thank you, GSUPM, with a $50 super chat. Thank you for your great coverage. No, thank you, and thank you as well for your support. I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Niece Burns comes in with a $9.99 super sticker. Thank you so much. Unravel, member for 12 months. Hit that thumbs up. Become a member. It's worth it. I appreciate that. Yes, please. The Discord is great. We do member-only lives where we do member-only live chats, especially on the weekends. And so the Discord has become a place for conversation. I'll say that. I really do and start to enjoy it. Let's see. Melanie becomes the newest member. Diane becomes the newest member. Thank you guys so much. Colleen, April, Gina, Karen, Palapalooza. I like that name. The Cindy, Karen, thank you so much. Alley Books, Truth in Time. Thank you guys. Thank you. You guys rock. Make sure you guys go and hit the link for the Discord so that tomorrow, don't forget, we're going to be watching the program on the Discord. I'm going to do my commentary. We're going to watch the program. I tried to do it here before, and every time I've done it here, it's kicked me off. It's copywritten me and a bunch of other things, but Discord apparently won't do it. So we're going to be able to do that. Steph C says OCD is more important here than is being spoke on. Compulsion is the root of OCD. Evidence of compulsion is all over the place here. Not that all people with OCD kill. That's true. That's true. Extreme Blonde DT show with lots of new members tonight. When will you be sending out the link to the Discord? So I integrated it already. So if you're on the Discord now and your membership has expired, I recommend re-upping your membership because it will be kicking folks off. So the link should be, once you hit the join button, it should be there. If it's not, I will put a link in the in the community post afterwards. It's new to me, but I integrated it so that once you hit the join button, you should be able to navigate there. Sirius Black comes in with their membership as well and gifts a Drunk Turkey Show membership. Make sure you guys have those on. All righty, so let's break it down. Let's get into this. 2248. I need to write that down. And the reason I'm writing that down is I'm going to edit that part out. So I put it down on the for audio only podcast. All right, so there's going to be a new video coming out, and we're going to watch it tomorrow on the Discord, as I mentioned. But there's little bits of information that have come out. And so this is a document that I have looked into, and let's read it. It says here, in the early morning hours, November 13, 2022, when 4 University of Idaho students would be stabbed to death in an off-campus house, as some of them slept, a neighbor's home security camera captured the same white car circling the block multiple times. The vehicle approached the house again and again before speeding away 13 minutes later. Investigators referred to a white Hyundai Elantra believed to be a 2011 or 13 as crucial clue as they solicited the public's help in finding the suspect. It also remains one of several key pieces of evidence, including DNA and cell phone data that the prosecutors say tied Kohberger to the crime scene. Kohberger drove a white 2015 Elantra. Cell phone tower data and phone records also obtained by Dateline indicate that an FBI cell phone expert said Kohberger's phone connected to a cell phone tower, providing coverage within 100 meters of a rental house, at 1122 King Road. It connected 23 visits over a 4-month period, all after dark, one visit just 6 days before the killings. Now, that was in a document that we've broken down and we read. And I wondered, how many times did he go back out there? How many times did he go back out there within the 6 days? Because they only broke it down to that point at that, for that document. I don't think that means that he didn't travel in there in those 6 days. Because, at the end of the day, even if he did, all they could have done is just said he was there 23 times between, I can't remember what date it started. I think it was June to November 13th, 2022, but they stopped it 6 days early. I wonder what happens before then. Now, this is also putting the phone within 100 meters 23 times. What about the times when his phone was off? Remember, we had Steve Goncalves on the channel. We interviewed him. He said that he was aware that they have him on camera on days that he was in the area when his phone was off. Now, that's scary because that also tells me that he was probably doing practice runs around there and something may have deterred him, whether it be a party going on that night, whether it be too many vehicles there, maybe it be the times that he'd gone by, lights were on, there was activity going on, et cetera, et cetera. And so interesting points that they have made. All right, let's continue this. Meanwhile, phone data from Bryan Kohberger's phone in the possessions of law enforcement include internet searches in the weeks before and after the killings on serial killer Ted Bundy and searches on pornography with the words forced, passed out, drugged, and sleeping. Now, this is very interesting, right? So, searches on serial killer Ted Bundy. Now, I thought it was weird. And I brought this out a long time ago. I said, when we found out that Bryan Kohberger's alibi was supposedly the Wawa Park, or he was partially at the Wawa Park, the initial thing that popped into my head was the fact that there was a body that was located at the Wawa Park back in the 70s, and the body was of Joyce LePage. She was found without clothing, wrapped in a WSU rug. She had attended a party, I believe, at WSU or something to that nature. She's believed to have been bludgeoned somewhere in one of the rooms and then wrapped up in a carpet and taken out to the caverns or the canyons out there and left. I know a lot of people, well, the theory from a lot of folks is that perhaps that was Ted Bundy's first victim, that there was some similarities as far as, being a co-ed or a college student and in the manner they found her and those type of things. In fact, Ted Bundy was asked about Joyce LePage. Now, he denied doing the murder. He denied being involved in it. Now, whether he did it or not is one thing, right? What matters for this case was Bryan Kohberger aware of it? Did he know about the rumors that Ted Bundy may have started his reign with Joyce LePage, and did he believe it? Now, if it was Bryan Kohberger who believed that Ted Bundy started with Joyce LePage, isn't it kind of just really weird that his alibi is where one of these persons that he's searching up around the time before and after the murders, he's searching him up? Isn't it kind of weird? Isn't he paying to me, I even use the term, he's paying a little bit of homage to him. I thought it was odd. I've been in the comment section, I've been told a lot that, it wasn't Ted Bundy. There's evidence and proof. In this situation, what matters is Bryan Kohberger's thoughts. Did he think Ted Bundy was involved? And if he did, that's pretty weird. Now, the other searches within his the pornographic searches for porn was forced, passed out, drugged, and sleeping. Now, remember, Steve mentioned in our interview that they were reached out by one of these folks that took his Reddit survey. And in this particular situation, the person, what he would do for his crimes was he was breaking in and he was stealing, and in some cases may have violated some women. And what he'd do is he'd wait and stalk, and he'd find houses that had parties and loud noises or whatever, and then he'd call the cops on it. And if something like somebody leave or like a boyfriend got arrested or something like that, he'd go in there And the part that Steve said that Bryan Kohberger got off on the most had to do with the sleeping, the ladies passed out, those type of things. And so pretty interesting that that's what he's also searching for. Also, given the nature of the crime, you had victims asleep, passed out from intoxication, things like that. So really interesting thing that they put up here. And so just wanted to point that out. And let's continue. So this goes on to say the Latah County prosecutors have not detailed the motive for the attack, and gag order prevents many involved in the case from speaking publicly. Now, the motive is an interesting thing, right? And a lot of people will look and have pointed at the fact that he was going through, including myself, that he was going through a lot of problems at WSU. He was losing his job. He was fighting with his professors. Women were reporting him for his obvious and disturbing behaviors, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing is, he purchased a lot of that kill kit while he was in Pennsylvania. And I don't think he was going through a lot of adversity from what we understand during that time. He was graduating with his master's degree in criminology. He was one of 2 students in one of his professor's class, although she never met him and it was online. He still was recommended for the PhD program, was accepted, got a TA, he was already informed of a TA position. He was already informed that he was going to be getting paid. This should be the highlight or the height of his life. I mean, you look at the very low point in his life when he was overweight and then got addicted to drugs and a bunch of other different things going on in his life. When in his youth, he's overcome all those demons ish, and to the outside world, at least, overcame those demons and has made something of himself. So you wouldn't think, how do you correlate the purchase of the knife and those other things with the problems that he was having at WSU? You really can't. And so this tells me that maybe perhaps he did seek out, this profession and the studies to commit a crime, to prepare him for a crime, and when Howard Bloom brings up, the motive that he was trying to impress Dr. Ramsland, I don't think that's the case. But what I do think is that if you have somebody who thinks he's smarter than everybody, and you have somebody that looks down on women, isn't it possible that a part of, not necessarily why he did it, but a part of the afterwards, the trying to stump his professor, maybe telling her, hey, look at this case, look at this. Now, remember, she said there was no email correspondence between Bryan Kohberger while he was at WSU. Correspondence means a back and forth. And so if Bryan Kohberger emailed her and she didn't respond, that doesn't count as a correspondence. She also said that Bryan Kohberger has not contacted her since his arrest, meaning that he was contacting her prior to the arrest. And so I think there's a world where he was messaging her and maybe even asked her some questions about, maybe he said, hey, look at this case, or just maybe even emailed her news articles or something in hopes to see if he could stump her. Maybe that was something that he was hoping to get off on. Like I said, I don't think that Dr. Ramsland had anything to do with what occurred. Obviously had nothing to do with what occurred. I think Bryan Kohberger may have sought her out and her studies in efforts to try to manipulate the situation, to learn from her. And I think that he probably was thought of, or maybe was getting off of the fact that he could stump somebody like her, somebody as prominent as her, somebody he learned from. I don't think he did it because of her, but I think he got off on that fact as well. I hope that makes sense. You know what I mean? Let me know in the comment section. I know you guys will. Let's see. This goes on to say Kohberger may have known any of the victims, housemates, Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, as well as her Kernodle's boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, is unclear. So they don't know how they know about it. I know a lot of people are pulling up, this pool party, right? And it seems like they've talked to a lot of people at this pool party. If they still don't know how Bryan Kohberger knew the victims, that should be a pretty big clue that they weren't at this pool party. Bryan Kohberger went to a pool party. It doesn't sound like any of the victims were at the same party. Because if that were the case, if any of the victims were at the pool party, okay, so yeah, I just got word I have a membership spot on the YouTube DT page. Discord link is there. If any members, only members will have access to it. Thank you. So if Dateline would have found out that Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, or Ethan were at this pool party, they would have been the first ones out there saying, hey, guess what? They were at the pool party too. The fact that they've been able to talk to so many people that were from that pool party and still are unable to connect those dots themselves. Now, I understand maybe perhaps law enforcement might have a better idea. Law enforcement might know something more. Law enforcement might have all this evidence, and they may exactly know where they cross paths, how many times they cross paths, based on where his phone was at and where the victims were at certain times. They may even have an idea of which one of the victims, if there was just specifically one that he was following. We come to find out during this promo that we're also going to play that for tomorrow's program, that Bryan Kohberger was not just following the victims, but he was following many of their friends. So he was really trying to learn them and understand them through social media. And so you would, if he's learning the friends and he's going through that, indication, through that, he must have met him somewhere. I just don't think it's this pool party. I don't think it's the pool party. But maybe police have an idea. Maybe law enforcement have an idea of when more or less it may have happened. I know that there's a weird thing, right, where Bryan Kohberger's friend Ashley Fugel, she passed away, and I think the road that she passed on was Lindsay Lane, and which is very similar to Linda Lane, which, from what I understand, Bryan Kohberger looked into apartments, not necessarily the ones on Linda Lane, but apartments from that same group of people. Maybe he did look at Linda Lane, and I don't know. Maybe that's where he got a lot of connections, but I don't know. Ashley Fugel was a girl that passed away. She overdosed, and there is an article that's out there that said that Bryan Kohberger was a suspect at one point before they ruled it an overdose. And so go look it up. And she does kind of look like Xana. Warning label Nina. She's put out some information about it. It's pretty compelling, She lived on Lindsay Lane. Linda Lane is pretty close. Did that play a role in why Bryan Kohberger chose that area and who? I don't know. I doubt it. To me, he went up to the third floor immediately. That tells me that his target or targets were on the third floor. Let's see. It says, in June 2022, Kohberger moved to Pullman. 10 days after moving, he was invited to a pool party in Moscow where attendees told Dateline they had an awkward interaction with Kohberger. One former female graduate student said Kohberger put his number in her phone and then texted her the next day mentioning how they had chatted about hiking. The text read, in part, I really enjoy that activity, so please let me know. Now, she was kind of worried and concerned about it because if he would have gone out hiking or she would have gone out hiking with him, that's a scary situation knowing what he's capable of, right? And being somewhere where there's probably no cell service, by yourself, I mean, depending on where you're at, and we already know what time of night he likes to go hiking. I put that in quotations, by the way, for those that are just listening in. That could have turned out really bad. The wording in the text, as I look back on it, is kind of peculiar. The woman said it's almost overly formal, and she decided not to respond, and probably saved her life. To be honest with you, I'll be honest with you. Based on this, what he's capable of. When the fall semester began, Kohberger, who also served as a teaching assistant, had interactions that stuck to fellow classmates and teachers, some who made complaints that led to the dean to discuss his professional behavior. Prosecutors say DNA was discovered on a knife sheath located on the bed next to Mogen's body, and testing found it to be statistical match to Kohberger's. Prosecutors also connected Kohberger's purchase to a K-bar knife from Amazon 8 months before the murders on March 20th, and that was the same type of sheath that comes with the K-bar found in the victims' homes. Now, March 20th is probably around the time, I think, where he's making that Reddit and he's doing that survey. So I think a lot of maybe perhaps his studies into the criminal mind of these individuals who he's probably finding some commonalities with, the lack of emotion, the lack of remorse, maybe perhaps he knows the kind of person he is and what he gets off on. His searches that we talked about were, pretty prevalent of that. And so, he's reading this about these people and what they get off on and all these other things. He's probably connecting some dots in his own mind saying, man, that sounds a lot like me. And I can relate to these people. And, I've always wanted to know how this felt or that felt. And then he sees and hears and probably watches videos on testimony and or audio from when his professors talked to serial killers on the emotions that they felt. And he's probably picking up on the fact that those folks are, he's probably picking up on the fact that this is a person who feels and acts a lot like me. And yet you can hear the emotion in their voice and how they come alive when they talk about the despicable crimes that they're doing. And maybe he wants to feel something like that, And because March 20th, that's when he purchases the K-bar knife. Like I said, he was graduating with his master's degree. He had the TA program, in line, going to Pullman, Washington, traveling across the country. I mean, this should be the height of his life. And he's purchasing a K-bar knife, and he's purchasing a balaclava mask and a backpack and certain things of his kill kit already. So do I think that the fact that his world was falling apart while he was at WSU played a role as to why he did it? Yeah, I think that maybe perhaps maybe not necessarily pushed him over the edge, but was that straw that broke the monkey's back, so to speak, that last bit of whatever, but either way, I think he still probably would have done it. Let's just say, well, it's hard, right? I mean, it's hard to say that if he didn't have any problems where he was at, if they weren't kicking him off, if he wasn't grading people too difficult, if he was able to blend in a little bit better, would he have committed these crimes? I don't know. Because if he wasn't, if he blended in a little bit better, if he was able to blend in better, if he was able to, because to me, somebody to commit the crime in the manner that they did with the cars that were outside, with the unknown stuff that was happening because of the cars that were outside, Ethan being there, there's a lot of impulse issues. And when you have impulse issues, other issues are going to happen, such as the arguments and the problems at work, and et cetera, et cetera. And so, I say, if he didn't show those things, maybe perhaps, I don't think a person who committed this crime would be capable of not showing those things, is what I'm trying to say. So, yeah. All that, I kind of confused myself too. I'm sorry, guys. All right, let me see. All right, before we get into the actual little clip of commercial for tomorrow's show on NBC. Let me answer a couple questions and things. We have Pets Left Behind become a new member. Elaine Bundles become a new member. Annabelle comes in with $1.99. Thanks for your diligence on this case and more. Thank you so much, Annabelle. I appreciate that. Unravel gifts 5 Drunk Turkey Show memberships. LH is a new member. Fran H, Jag, also a new member. Youthful Balance. Thank you guys. Man, we got a lot of new members. Riley J, Sharon, Laura, Sharon, and Baldi Basics. Thank you guys. I appreciate you guys. Ulala, do you think he chose WSU because it's SK history instead of the academics? I think that's possible. I mean, I don't know about the other places, and I'm not familiar with the PhD program like that to understand or know this, and I might have to go back and look at this and investigate it. But I wonder if the other locations had a intern police department program, an intern police program with the local police department. If they didn't, maybe that's the reason why. I think he may have thought that he was going to use his position as a police officer or in his position as an intern police officer and maybe be able to garnish certain tools and techniques and like things of that nature that were going to assist him in his spree, possibly. Maybe that's the reason why, but unknown. Ivy League says, do you think Kaylee was just collateral damage or part of the target? I definitely think he wanted Maddie, but not sure about Kaylee. Kaylee, that's a good question. I mean, what do we know? We know that the door for Kaylee's room was open the entire time. Now, was that open because Bryan Kohberger opened it and saw the dog and just left the door open, or opened it, didn't see anything inside? Maybe Murphy was on the other side of the bed or something, just opened it, didn't see anybody, didn't want to close it. Remember, he's not touching things more than he has to. So if he opens the door, he's not touching it again. So it stayed open. And we know it's open because Xana's going up the stairs with Murphy. So Murphy would have had to have gone downstairs at one point, right? And if the door was closed, then Murphy wouldn't have been able to go down. So Murphy goes downstairs. Xana goes upstairs with Murphy. We know that because Dylan hears somebody. She thinks it's Kaylee, but even the defense and everybody agree that Kaylee most likely had already passed at this point. And so she hears somebody running down saying somebody's in the house. And so is it possible that the reason why the door was open was because the first door that he walked into was Kaylee's? And does that mean that Kaylee was actually the target? Now, both of the injuries, as Steve said, the injuries don't match. Kaylee was in a corner, beaten, and damage to her face. And Steve has mentioned that if the stab wounds didn't take her alive, the blows to her face would. Now, the defense is claiming that means there's 2 different weapons. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think he may have used the same weapon in a different way. For instance, using the butt end of the knife as a blunt force object. So she ends up getting the more ferocious attack. She was in the bed with Maddie. And we know that because Maddie was on the outside of the bed. Kaylee was laying on the inside between Maddie and the wall. And she was backed up in the corner. And so the only way you get there is if you wake up and you start backpedaling, or you start, scooching back and you back into the corner. And so, I for 100% believe they were sleeping in the same room, in the same bed. So it's possible that it may have been Maddie, it may have been Kaylee, it may have been both. I mean, his objection could have been to go in there, take care of of Maddie and Kaylee, and then leave, and Xana and Ethan were just collateral damage. Or maybe perhaps his goal was to go through one floor at a time, and because people woke up and he had to go from one end to another, and maybe it took more out of him than he thought, and that's the reason why he didn't go after Dylan and Bethany. You know, maybe there was somebody that did yell out something that told him that somebody was alert. You know, Steve made the comment saying that it appears that he did a Google search before the 911 was called, so he had prior knowledge. Now, what would have prompted him to make that search? You know, if he didn't see Dylan and he thought there was nobody else in that house, you know, he wouldn't be making that search, because he's going to have to wait until somebody discovers the bodies, and who knows when that's going to be. The fact that he saw Dylan is probably the reason why he turns on his phone, and really, in reality, Dylan ended up catching him in a lot of ways, you know, because of that. You know, by her seeing him and not calling 911, I know a lot of people look at her and try to vilify her for that, but because of that, he probably turned on his phone early to see what happened. I mean, curiosity killed the cat. He's now searching in the morning what's going on, because he knows he got seen, or somebody heard him, or he heard somebody, one or the other. He was aware that somebody was aware of his presence there. And so now he's doing searches. He's driving back out there, not turning off his phone, going back, doing more searches, apparently calling his mom and dad before he does that that selfie. Now, why does he do that? Why does he do that? Why does he take a selfie before calling his mom and dad? Well, let's put it into full context. This is after he's already returned. So he knows police haven't discovered the scene, because he's already gone out there. So he's probably, my just opinion, but he's probably trying to set himself up right there so that his parents believe him, or like, no, he couldn't have done this. He called us that morning. You know what I mean? He's probably trying to manipulate the situation there. You know, just like with Dr. Catherine Ramsden, I think he was trying to manipulate her in that situation. It's a double-edged sword what she does. You know, she's trying to learn from the most heinous of people, so that way people can learn and look for red flags and understand and not put themselves in dangerous positions. But at the same time, that's going to attract creeps and creepos and weirdos and psychos and all these other people that are going to try to learn from her in efforts to not get caught in these situations. You know, it is what it is. But I don't know about Kaylee being collateral damage. Great question. Let's see. Let me clear some of these off real quick that we did. Okay, what about when he lurked the Mad Greek? I mean, I don't know if he did or not. Now, I do know that they were looking at some of his bank records, right? They're looking at his bank records, and they were trying to, I think there's something about video of him and something about some other records with Maddie and Kaylee. I think they got him going out there. And so what if they have him taking out cash, right? And then he's using that cash to go make purchases at places that are nearby at the Mad Greek, or even at the Mad Greek. But he's using cash so that he doesn't leave a paper trail, because obviously if he's going to end up taking the lives of somebody, and it goes and it's obvious to law enforcement, it's not somebody close, right? It's not an ex-boyfriend. It's not anything like that. And so they're going to start looking outside of the circle. They're going to look at for people that were stalking or following. So they're going to go to their job. And if they have a job where there's a record of people that have been in there, by, for instance, using like receipts, like when people purchase something, that's a documentation, especially if they're using their credit card, you know, date, time, location, whole 9 yards. And so he's aware of that. So if he's going out there to the ATM machines and taking out money, why is he doing that? Especially if he's doing that, I think it said within a few days of the murders, he was doing that. Well, obviously, those are the, you know, that's telling us he's gearing up to do it. And he's taking out money and not using using cash and not the credit card, because he's probably doing some really close by following or surveilling, something that could be detectable fairly easily by law enforcement. Because if he's following them in June or whatever, and he's using his credit card, debit card, That's one thing. But law enforcement is going to look at the days leading up, like who was really there. So they're going to try to look up, all right, while they're at work, are there repeat customers in the, within the last week? And the easy way to do that is to look at the credit card transactions. And if you're paying cash, you're not going to come up. You know what I'm saying? So great question and observation. I wonder if that's the case. Midwest comes in with a gifted Turkey Show membership. Youthful Balanced Skin, thank you. Sharon, thank you. Thank you. All right. Cindy comes on $2 super chat. WOC has a highly regarded criminal justice PhD program. 100%. I mean, that's the other thing too, right? I mean, if his mindset is he's smarter than everybody and he's, the best at everything, he's going to challenge and go after the best. He didn't succeed. Thank you, Stephen, for a $20 super chat. I agree. Pickens had to go, but now we have no QB and only DK at receiver. Oh man, I love it when you comment about my Steelers. Yeah, I'm very frustrated. I have a State of the Steelers video coming out pretty soon, talking about my frustrations on the George Pickens trade. I feel you, my man. I feel you. Warning label Nina in the house coming in with a 6. He has planned this for 10 years, in my opinion. Thank you. Man, I'm all over the place. Jen McVick, sorry about that. $4.99 super sticker. Thank you so much. Virginia Miley, been a member for 6 months. Shannon Nelson, he looked down. He looked drawn out in his selfie like he was on meth. The dude, I mean, all right, let's be honest, right? He took a shower already, most likely. I doubt that he drove back to the scene before showering, right? So he showered. In that picture, he looks freshly showered. We know what he was searching. That's what he looks like he just did. I'll be honest with you. That's what he looks like he just did. Amanda Drover comes in with a $2.79 super chat. Thank you so much. Amanda Drover coming with $6.99. I think maybe the overkill on Kaylee was because she was interfering with the one he wanted, which that's possible. That was the other thing I was going to say too, is like, was he mad because he could not fulfill what his fantasy was? Maybe perhaps it was just solely Maddie. And maybe, he's already obviously to that point where he's committing a crime of taking somebody's life in complete anger after, all this planning and everything. He's finally got the nerve to go and do it. He's inside the house, gets into the room, and now Kaylee's in there. 100%. That's quite plausible as to why she ended up getting some more severe. Laura Joe Smiles, thank you so much for being the newest member. Do you think that Murphy would have been in Maddie's room with the two of them? He slept with M and K, was gone, allegedly. I don't think so. I mean, the bed, from what I understand, wasn't very big, so I'm not sure if they're going to have a lot of space there with the dog as well. Plus, they got home late. When I get home late at 2-3 in the morning, if my dog wakes up, I'll take him out. But if he doesn't, I just leave him where he be. Now Murphy was a puppy, so he may have gotten up. I don't know. He may have been in their room on the floor. It's quite plausible. I have no idea. Why I think he idolized Ted Bundy. There could be some elements of the Green River unaliver. He lied to have relations with unalived women. Ugh. Yeah. Jeremiah, do you think there's a connection between the date of the unalivings 11/13/22 and the address 1122 King Road? The 13th being 13th symbology. Just planning. Sounds familiar. I don't know. I think that he chose that night for other reasons. I think there was reason why. because there was a lot of obstacles in his way, right? And he still chose to do it. There was a vehicle accident at about 11 o'clock that night in front of his apartment complex, and obviously was gone way before he left. And so a lot of people say, "Oh, why would he leave?" Well, it was gone. It wasn't there no more. So why is he going to be worried? I mean, who's going to be worried? Like, oh my God, they were here because somebody crashed into a fire hydrant. They're going to stay longer because, they suspect somebody's going to go out there from this area and kill 4 people. It doesn't make any sense. As soon as they left, they left. The scene's over. He would have understood that. You had Kaylee's car, you had Ethan there, a lot of obstacles in his way, and yet he still did it. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting if he went on other nights, right? And his phone was off, and on those nights, Kaylee wasn't there. I think that would be more telling, because that could be the reason why he didn't attempt to do anything those nights. But if Kaylee was there on those nights that he had his phone and he still didn't commit the crime, then that tells me that it's probably not that. So it's something that is a what if, but it's very narrowed, right? Like it can't be like, to me at least, it's very narrow. I mean, obviously he could have gone there a couple of times and Kaylee was there and there was parties or something. But yeah. What's up, Timmy? Tim Collins comes in saying, what time exactly did Bryan call his parents? I heard it was right. Well, I think it says it in the in this little thing we're going to listen to here in a second. Let's pull that up now. I hope they don't copyright him for this, because there's some audio there, but let's look at it.
November 13th, 2022, 4 University of Idaho students, Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, were stabbed to death.
I'm going to have to pause this like every now and then because of the music and everything else behind it. They'll copyright this real easy. Steve just said Kaylee wasn't at the house much more anymore and hadn't been there for a couple of weeks. I don't think he was expecting to find her there. That's quite possible. He could have found them if they tagged the location on their IG. I can see the post tagged and break an IG would track something like that. Yeah. Also, they posted up photos of them at the neighbor's house, I believe. Yeah, at the I believe I think it's called the White Apartments. The picture where Kaylee has Maddie on her shoulders, that's where that was taken at, and that was uploaded the 12th of November. Does anyone know if he applied for any other programs? That's a good question. So, Daniel, any chance to watch the party on Dateline tomorrow? Thank you for asking. We are going to watch it. It's going to be on Discord, so you have to be a member to watch it. Hit the join button, become a member, then go to Discord. If you don't have one, create a Discord. It's just like a little chat room. It's pretty cool. I mean, I'm in there quite a bit. We have a great conversation. We get a little fiery in the Karen Reed conversation, but it's in there and everybody's friends. And we're gonna do a watch party. I'm actually gonna show the entire presentation. I mean, the entire episode tomorrow on Discord only, but you can only be there if you're a member. Steven comes in, $5. Daniel, for the record, I'm a Steelers fan. I live 15 miles outside of Pittsburgh. That's awesome, man. I'm going to be in Pittsburgh this fall. I'll let you know. Maybe we can meet up or something. I usually go out there to get some Friori's pizza, and I like the I like Permane Brothers. They're okay, but I like Pepe's. The Roethlisberger's my go-to when I'm out there. So yeah, I go check out those places. What do you think he did with the knife? That's a good question. And, to me, I think that he obviously, if he was looking for another knife and it was to commit another crime, right? Let's just look at it from that aspect. I don't know if that's the reason why. He could have been replacing it, which I think is kind of dumb, because it's not like you don't think they're going to look at your financial history to see that you purchased another knife to replace it. But then again, he made a lot of dumb mistakes. Well, anywho, I would have expected it because I think he was trying to commit another crime. So why not use the knife that he had before? Either it's somewhere where he can't get to it, or it's destroyed, or thrown in a river where you can't go in and find. It's not accessible, or it's broken, damaged, and he can't use it for another crime. So I think that's a huge clue. It could be one or the other, but I would have leaned towards he probably got rid of it somewhere and is now looking for another one. All right, let's continue this.
Their accused killer, Bryan Kohberger, faces trial this summer. He's pleaded not guilty. For the last 2.5 years, Dateline has been on the ground, reporting, gathering, and learning from people with direct knowledge of the case. We've obtained things that have never before been seen publicly.
Dateline loves that music, don't they? Cyborg Mama MCL comes in being a YouTube member. Thank you.
Like these security videos from a camera on a house near the murder scene. Videos that show a white sedan.
All right, so this is going to be a video that we're going to see, and I have this video on its way, in the process of downloading it. Like I said earlier, I have zero intention on playing the audio portion of it during the time when the murders happened. I understand that if that Dateline is going to play some of this footage, I'm going to play maybe a little bit more than whatever it is that they play. But if Dateline plays the audio of during the murders and during the times that it happened, I mean, it's out there, it's put out there. There's nothing I can do about it. But if they don't, out of respect for the family members and the victims, I do not intend on playing that part. And so I'm not sure when we're going to do it. Saturday, full disclosure, my little girl, we're having her birthday party. So I might break it down Saturday morning. It might be something that's going to wait till Sunday evening. But make sure you like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss it. We're almost to 50,000. Let's get us to 50,000 subscribers. I'd really appreciate it. But let's break this down a little bit. I'm going to mute it so I don't have to worry about. So you see the vehicle leaving here. And I mean, it is just so hard to see anything, to be honest with you. I wish I could zoom in, but here I can kind of see the shape of the window. You can see the little triangular, I mean, not triangular, but the little curvature at the end part of the window, but it is hard to see anything else. It is absolutely difficult to see anything else, leaving or coming because of the lights. That's going to be tough, guys. That's going to be tough. Thank you, GSUPM, for coming in with a $20 super chat. I appreciate that, guys. Truly do. You guys rock. Cyborg Mama, GSUPM, and Valerie Levy. Thank you. Do you think law enforcement searched around his route in the wilderness for the weapon? Yeah, I definitely. I know they did. I know that they've looked at a few places and at a couple of different places as well. I don't think they found anything though. All right, let me rewind this a little bit. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be difficult to see anything. I mean, even the vehicle leaving because of the bright light. I mean, you can't tell if this vehicle has a front license plate or not. I mean, I'm honest, from this angle, from what we're seeing, it'll be difficult. Look at the time, 3:44, 3:56. This is the time when, oh, look at that. Look at that. They're not showing enough. Look at that. Right there, you can see that's a pretty good view of it. They're just showing the parts that are super bright. But look at that. Oh, man. I wish I can just go back one more frame. All right, from right there, what can you see? No sunroof. Clear as day. Let me make this bigger for everybody. You can see no sunroof. You can see it's a two-door car. You can see a little line right there. Yeah, or a little break. It's kind of like a little break in the window. You can see the tail, the back window. It's kind of pointing. Not a lot of detail. I mean, you can't obviously tell that this is an Elantra from this, but there's some details there that you can see. That was at 4:07, guys. 40702. This is the final turn, right when he's about to commit this crime.
With evidence like this and our reporting, we have assembled a timeline for the weeks, months, and days before and after the murders. Starting with a pool party Kohberger attended in July, just after he moved to the area in pursuit of his PhD in criminology. An exclusive interview with...
And again, guys, a party there, they've found so many people from this pool party, and not one of them have said that Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, or Xana were there. They don't. Dateline says that they are unclear of the connection between Bryan Kohberger and the victims. They don't know. They don't know when Bryan Kohberger crossed paths. For them to have made contact with so many people tells me, without a shadow of a doubt, that it is probably 90% chance that neither one of those victims were at that party. I know a lot of people look at the party and think there's something there. There's not.
With a woman who exchanged numbers with Kohberger, then did not return his text.
You know, the universe intervened and for whatever reason just distracted me from further engaging in that interaction.
We'll also reveal records from Kohberger's cell phone that are in the possession of law enforcement and Google searches regarding the serial killer Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy. Again, Ted Bundy, I mean, that's one of the people that I said that he may have been paying homage to. I called this, guys. I said he was paying homage to Ted Bundy. I said that, you know, the fact that he, you know, his supposed alibi was that he was in a location where Ted Bundy is rumored to have started his reign of terror. I mean, you can't get any crazier than that. Plus, then you mix in the fact that he was Google searching him before and after the murders. I mean, come on now. Come on.
We have also seen these. Dozens of photos in Kohberger's cell phone. Browsing history. Women from Washington State and the University of Idaho, including close friends of the King Road victims.
So he had pictures not only of the victims, but close friends of the victims and other women, some from WSU. You know, one of the things that I had mentioned, especially in the pattern in which he was driving, I thought maybe, is it possible there was another house out there? I don't think so. But is it possible that there was? There could be. I mean, he was behind the 700 block of Indian Hills Drive. You know, that's the neighborhood across the main highway there to the east. And so, you know, the video from where the gas station video is coming from that direction as well. So maybe there was another house out there somewhere. Maybe he had his eye on other people. You know, we know that there's at least Dateline, I think it was the ones that brought it up to everybody's attention that there was a female who had reached out to Bryan Kohberger because somebody had broken into her house, and Bryan Kohberger had advised her that it'd probably be in her best interest if she set up some cameras inside and that he'd be the one to set them up. He ended up keeping her Wi-Fi password and stuff like that and was able to log in and watch her. You know, pretty creepy stuff, man. Pretty creepy stuff.
Dateline has also obtained records showing the details of what an FBI cell phone expert has claimed to be in the months before the murders, 23 occasions when Kohberger's phone connected to a cell tower, providing coverage to within 100 meters of the house at 1122 King Road. And in the hours after the murders, details of the timing of phone calls Bryan Kohberger made to a phone linked to his parents just before the controversial selfie he took.
So he called his parents just before the controversy cell phone picture. Oh, wow. Creepy. I'm so glad my daughter already graduated from WSU. 100%. How long did she graduate from WSU? So he called his parents before this selfie. Maybe this is who he sent a picture to. I think he was trying to set up, not necessarily an alibi, but manipulate his parents into thinking that he's not the monster that took the lives of these four people. You know, before the 911 call came in, he made contact with them. He had spoken to them that morning. You know, I wonder if that was a common thing for him to speak to his parents on Sunday mornings. I mean, it could be, but if it's not, I think he was trying to set up or manipulate the situation so that way his parents, you know, would not have would create doubt in his parents' mind that he would have been capable of doing this crime. I think that's what we're seeing here. Let's see. Kohbergers are running with this Daniel saying that he was just showing that he could button the top button. I heard that today. I mean, that's not in favor of Bryan Kohberger if he can button the top button. He's claiming that he doesn't have the dexterity to commit these crimes and that he has dexterity issues and movement issues. If he didn't, do the top button, then that would have been evidence of what they're saying. But those people are so they don't understand it, and so they look at that as this is him being able to do that, and don't understand that that's something that's negative for their side. It's kind of funny. All manipulation, 100%. That's exactly what I'm seeing is manipulation. Isn't it kind of crazy that for somebody with so much knowledge would make so much stupid mistakes like driving there repeatedly, etc.? Yes, but I think that what he was trying to do is he was looking at all these other things that catch people. He was trying to leave the back door open, the location and the direction in which he traveled after the murders, probably all the surveillance, turning his phone off, making sure that he didn't, he chose victims that wouldn't come back to him, even though I'm sure that we're going to find out that they do. He did so many things. He was looking at so many little things that typically catch some people that he looked past and overlooked some of the bigger things. And again, I mean, I don't think he was all there. And yeah, he may have been able to pass some tests, and maybe perhaps he was able to remember some things and had a high vocabulary, and his memory was somewhat good enough to get him through. Well, it doesn't mean he was a very intelligent person that way. I mean, he made a lot of dumb mistakes. A lot of dumb mistakes you don't expect somebody like that to make. Steelers fan is in the building, gifting 5 Drunk Turkey Show memberships. What is up? Can't call her a freeloader now. Can't do it. Can't do it.
And we'll talk to the mother whose daughter was supposed to be staying in the house the night of the murders.
That's crazy. Could you imagine that? If your child was supposed to stay at a house, and for whatever reason it didn't go down, and something horrific happened. I mean, I couldn't even imagine, the stress, the feeling, for her daughter, the guilt, the survivor's guilt that probably comes with that. It probably hits hard with Dylan and Bethany as well. Just a terrible situation all around for everybody.
But a change of plans may have saved her daughter's life.
How soon was it that you thought, my God, she was going to be there?
I didn't think about that right away.
Oh.
All I could think about was the kids.
Makes you sad too, doesn't it?
It does. Sorry.
You know what? A lot of people are so dumb. I'm sorry. People look at this image, right? And I seen it recently. They're like, oh my God, this image is Photoshop. Look at Dylan's hair. It's sticking up. I don't know if you notice, or, some of these folks, maybe they need to go back to school, but Maddie's wearing a sweatshirt. Sweatshirt creates what's called static. Static does to hair is it sticks to it. And so if you see her arm, Maddie's arm is up and Dylan's hair is stuck to it. Jesus Christ. I just wanted to point that out. You guys are just like, some of these folks that are saying that this is photoshopped and all these other things really have no knowledge into things. I have in my intro for What the Freak Fridays, it says you don't know what you don't know. And that's a situation of you not knowing what you don't know. That's called static, guys. It's called static.
You said too, doesn't it?
It does. Sorry.
So many damaged families. Angela Nevejas told us that her daughter Ashlyn, Maddie Mogen's best friend, moved away from Idaho and now refuses to come home to visit because of the trauma associated with the murders. She's hoping some of that may change and Ashlyn will start to grieve after Bryan Kohberger's trial. Back to you, Greg and Savannah.
Such a heartbreaking story. Keith, thank you. And we know we'll have more on Dateline. We'll look forward to that. I want to turn now to NBC senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett, who's here. You follow this very closely too. And now we're starting to see some of the case that the prosecution plans to present. What do you think is?
And so that's it when it comes to a little promo they have for tomorrow's Dateline coverage on the Idaho case. One that we'll be watching on the Discord. You can only catch that if you're a member and you create a Discord. It's 99 cents, y'all. Get in there, become a member. We're probably going to do more of this type of stuff whenever there's documentaries or things like that on the Discord for members only. So I highly recommend sticking with it and staying with it. It's a great conversation. But we have it already set up in the Discord, the event for tomorrow night. I'm going to air the broadcast in its entirety. We're going to watch it. We're going to actually be able to see it. So if you don't have, YouTube TV or cable or Dish Network and things of that nature, and you want to watch this, and you want to watch it with us, just 99 cents, guys. Hit the join button. You'll be able to watch it with us tomorrow night on Discord. It won't be on YouTube. It'll be only on Discord. So you got to create a profile and all that other stuff and go through that. A little bit of work, but well worth it in my opinion as well. All right, let's see. I'm going to answer a few questions before we call it a show. Let's see. Felicia Daniel, do you think the police lied to the public just to withhold information about the case? Can they do that in an investigation? I do not think they lied at all to the public. I mean, I think that they were open and honest about what they knew at the time that they knew it. I know a lot of people look at it and say, oh, the timeline. And I don't think they ever said anything about the murders happening at 3 o'clock or 3:30. What they did was they put out a bolo and they said they wanted to talk to the occupant or the occupants of a white Elantra that was seen driving in the area between 3 and 4 o'clock. And a lot of people assume, or between 3:30 and 4 o'clock, or 3 and 4 o'clock. And a lot of people assume that that's meant that the murders happened between then. No, at 3:30 or 3:26, actually. So between 3 and 4 o'clock, there's a white Elantra that drives by a total of 4 different times. And so they weren't lying. People just assume that them saying, which was the truth, that a white Elantra is seen in the area driving around, that they wanted to talk to the occupant or occupants. They assumed that meant that that's when the murders happened. No, that's when the vehicle was being driven around in a suspicious manner. 100% honest. The fact that the house where they said that they felt that this was a targeted event. They had some information to believe that was targeted, whether it be, and they used the term, the house may be the target. And a lot of people were confused by that, including, maybe not myself. I understood what they meant by it, but I'd understand why a lot of people were confused by the term the house being the target. Some people thought maybe it's because it was a drug house, and so that's what it meant. And what they meant was, in talking with Steve in our interview, he mentions that police were aware very early on, because the question I asked him was, was there a point that they told you that they suspected that the person that committed this crime was outside of the circle, the close circle of Kaylee or her friends, their close circle around them. And he said very early on, they felt that they were looking for an outsider, somebody that came in, maybe surveilled the place quite a bit. And surveilling the place quite a bit would mean that the target being the house. Now, they don't necessarily know which person inside the house may have been the objection of that surveillance, but that in order to have committed the crime in the manner that they did, leaving little evidence behind, and then leaving also in a direction that showed very little as far as cameras, led people to believe that it was cased out. You can deduce the information there to know that it was cased out, the house was cased out, the area was cased out, those type of things. And so, in a sense, I don't think they lied. I think that early on, like day one, they probably came to the realization Kaylee had more injuries. She was out with her ex-boyfriend that night. Her ex-boyfriend lived down the street. All signs were probably leading to that direction very, very early. But after they talked to him and after they found the evidence, and because not everything is sitting there nicely wrapped in a bag for detectives on the kitchen table. They have to search, they have to find this evidence. And even like, for instance, the neighbors with the 1112 King Road camera surveillance, There's warrants that are needed, those type of things to gather that information. It needs to be collected. It needs to be looked at. It needs to be broken down. It needs to be searched. There's a lot of things that go down into it. And that process takes more than just a day. And so the first day, they probably, or maybe the first few hours, thought something about Jack. But, you know, once they were able to break down that footage and get into it and actually see there was a white car passing by quite a bit, hear the dog barking, which told them that the person entered the house and left the back sliding glass door open. That tells you, or tells me at least, that the person was conscientious of DNA. They knew that if they open the door once, that's touching it. If they close it, that's touching it again. If they're leaving and they're opening it again, that's touching it 3 times. And on that 3rd time, after he's exhausted and exerted himself, taking the lives of 4 people with a knife, that's going to be the high possibility of leaving your own DNA behind. So the person, just by knowing and hearing that the dog ran out and barked, tells you that the back sliding glass door was left open during the entire time, tells you that person was conscientious of leaving DNA behind, and that tells you what type of killer you're looking for. This isn't somebody who's high on drugs or any of those things. That, you know, being high on drugs and it being like an anger issue because you're roid raging, you're not putting in a lot of thought like that into a crime. You're raging. You know, raging and thought process and being methodical with something typically don't go hand in hand. You know, even if you're upset or you'd have to be raging again out of anger and stuff like that to commit a crime like this if it was due to, you know, your ex-girlfriend breaking up with you and then leaving out of the state. So those things don't line up with what this crime and the evidence that was there. It goes back to the means. I know I'm rambling a little bit, but it goes back to the means of the crime. And means of the crime is more than just capable of swinging a knife around. It's also not leaving DNA behind, understanding and knowing to leave the back sliding glass door open, taking a kill kit, those type of things, casing out the place, knowing where your camera locations are. I think those are all fall in the line of the means. And when it comes to your triangle of a crime, your means, opportunity, and your motive. Motive, I think, is multifaceted. I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. I don't think there's one simple answer solution. I don't think anybody's going to be able to come up and say, oh, he did it because of a 3-word answer or a 1-sentence answer. I don't even think Bryan Kohberger probably could do that. And so I think there's a lot of reasons. I think there was ulterior motives behind things. I think him contacting Dr. Ramsland, and remember, Dr. Ramsland said no email correspondence, and she said, which means a communications back and forth. And she also said he had not contacted her since his arrest. Well, just before his arrest, he was still a member of WSU. And so it sounds to me that he did contact her, unprovokedly contacted her, and she didn't respond to him. That's what it sounds like to me in her statements. And if what those emails were ideas, thoughts, or even just clippings of the crime, if all he did was send news articles that say 4 Idaho students, stabbed to death in a home, off-campus home, and in his objection or his goal was for her to look into it. And, remember, this is a guy that has been accused of trying to be the smartest person in the room and looking down upon women. I think he would get off on if he tried to stump her, and if he thought that he could outsmart her. I don't necessarily believe that's the whole purpose or the reason behind why he did what he did, but I do think that may have played a role in the afterwards or in the process of doing this crime. Is, can I stump her? But I don't think that was the reason why. All right. But no, I don't think, to answer your question, I know I went a long way around it. I do not think that police lied to anybody. Let's see. Jay Hubbard, what is the audio on the security camera you won't play? The audio that I won't play is between 4:08 and 4:19. I am not going to play that audio. Now, if Dateline plays it and it's out there, I mean, there's nothing I can do, right? But I'm not going to be the guy that's going to be out there putting that audio out there for people to listen to. You know, that can wait till trial for all I care, to be honest with you. You know, but like I said, if it's kind of like the 911 call. I had the 911 call for a while. You know, it wasn't part of the gag. We got it on the Freedom of Information Act, and I had every opportunity and I had every right, if I wanted to air it out before I did. But I made a promise to some folks that I wouldn't play it until it was out there and there was nothing I could do. I wouldn't be the reason why it's out there. I mean, it's not what I'm doing, and that's not why I do it. And so, you know, I'm not going to play that part. If Dateline plays it and it's out there and everybody can hear it, and you know, that's a completely different situation. It's already out there. If they don't, then I'm not. I mean, I'll most likely play the video. You know, when we get to that part, I'll play the video. I'm just not going to play the audio. I don't want that on my channel. I mean, even if Dateline plays it, I don't think I'm going to play it either. I don't know. I have to decide on that. Sharon Shipley, newest member. Rose coming in, also a newest member. Freya, sorry about that, coming in also with the newest member. Let's see. I'm surprised BK didn't try to record it, or do you think maybe he did? I wouldn't be surprised if he took pictures or did some sort of recording, but I don't know if he would do that on his personal device. I think his personal device was off. So if he did do something like that, it was on a burner device. So leave that for what that is. But I don't think he did it on his personal device because his personal device was off. Will we ever see any of the warrants, etc., from the investigation? Ooh, good question. I mean, a lot of it's already out there. You know, just kind of like when I went through the documents the other day and I noticed that a document that was it was released. I don't know if it was out of order or because it was unsealed. It was now released, and it was in the date of which it was originally released. So it didn't pop up at the top as one of the more released documents because it was released a while ago. It was just sealed. And then so I wonder how many documents are, if we were to go back that have been unsealed now, maybe there's some more information there or unredacted stuff, but I don't know. Do you think, but at the end, I do think that everything will come out once the trial is over. I think Freedom of Information Act will allow for all the evidence and stuff like that to be put out there. Let's see. Ivy League. Do you think BK would have got caught if he didn't accidentally drop the knife sheath? Personally believe he would have. I do think that there was enough evidence out there that if somebody would have caught word of his of him, they probably would have looked into him. You know, I think that his sister was concerned, right? Now I don't know how much of this is true because Howard Bloom has not been completely accurate in a few things, you know, so take this for what it is. But you know, he had mentioned that that Steve, and I have not asked Steve this question, you know, kind of like the alibi, right? Ann Taylor's probably doesn't know the alibi because that's probably an answer to a question she don't want to know. Same thing with Steve. I don't want to know this answer if he's spoken to somebody from grand jury or not, and I won't ask him. You know, that's none of my business. But according to Howard Bloom, there was something about something at the grand jury, and that Steve and the G's were about to make contact with somebody, an informant, and that they were stopped by the FBI because of a tip. I don't know. I strongly doubt this story. I'll be honest with you. I'm only saying because it's been published out there, but I'm probably about 40% that it's accurate. I don't think that is completely false. I do think that there are some accuracy, that there's some truth in there. I just don't know about how 100% accurate it is. But according to Howard Bloom's article, it was one of the sisters and that the G's couldn't contact her because she had made a tip through the FBI tip line, and because it was a tip line through the FBI, there was some problems that could have come across. We do know that the search for the K-bar knife is very minimal, right? It's a 10-day reference. So somebody did cooperate. I would assume it was the sister who did cooperate. And it sounds like, I think it was JLR that put it out there that the sister had, that he found out that the sister had reported to the tip line while her dad was out there in transit with Bryan Kohberger back to Pennsylvania. I don't know how true any of that is. I have no personal information about any of that. And so I'm just telling you what these guys have put out there. They've put out some credible stuff in the past. There's been some things that have come out to be question marks in some things, but for the most part, I think it's been mostly credible. So, but it's not something that I have personally vetted or known. But if that be the case, that his sister did report something like this, then I think 100%, yeah, he would have definitely gotten caught eventually. I think that, his behavior at WSU, somebody was going to catch on to his vehicle. He got fired. I mean, I would have thought somebody would have looked into him, and some of the things would have still been there. The fact that he had his phone off during the time of the murders, they would have found out why he had it off, that it was turned off. They would have found out that he was in the area 23 times before the murders. They would have found out that he purchased a K-bar knife and the sheath, even though it's missing. All of the items are missing. They now know that we have victims that have been, whose lives were taken by a large fixed blade object, and he purchased an item similar to that can't be found around this time, et cetera, et cetera. So I do think they still would have caught him. They still would have had enough to catch him. I think they still would have had enough to prosecute him, to be 110% honest with you. Would it have been more difficult? 100% more difficult, but I don't think it would have been out of the realm of possibility. Let's see. Sirius Black comes in with a $2.99 super sticker. Lynette comes in with a $4.99 saying, okay, tell me I'm reaching, but I beg you to look at the Bundy in court pic I just emailed you. Is that the one where he's giving the thumbs up? Because if it is, it does look very much like Bryan Kohberger's thumb up picture. Annabelle comes in with a $1.99 super sticker. Thank you guys. I appreciate you guys. DT show, mad respect for you. It shows your character. And that, sir, is absolutely commendable. I appreciate that. Marty, thank you so much. Like I said, when I even when I did the video, right, the interview with Steve, I released the entire video in its entirety. In the Discord, it was asked if it was going to be the whole thing or how I was going to release it. And at one point, it was going to be released in parts because I wanted the information to get out there and make sure that people understood. Because I know that, some people will watch an interview or watch a program. They don't watch and sit for the whole thing an hour. And in the case of the Steve G interview, an hour and 45 minutes is a long time to watch, an interview in its entirety. And so I thought about doing it in parts. But then again, I thought to myself, I don't think that's fair. And putting it in parts would be also a way to get views and things of that nature. And that's not why I'm putting it out there. I mean, yes, I could have gotten 3 times the views if I did that, but that's not why I do this. I do this because at the end, to begin with, me and the guys wanted to look at cases and give a perspective of one from experience and clarity of what it is that's going on in certain cases, and to put out a certain understanding, because I've written probable cause affidavits, I've made arrests, I've investigated crimes, et cetera, et cetera. And so, the goal is always to inform, right? The goal is never to grow, I guess. But in efforts to inform, you have to grow. So that's part of it. You know what I'm saying? But to me, I thought that interview probably was best to be put in its entirety. So that way there's nothing taken out of context. I know a lot of people look at it and say, oh, there's some edits in there. Yes, there is. There, early on. And so that interview was recorded. We sent it off to our lawyers so that way they can look at it and make sure that there wasn't any violation of gag order. Now, early on in the interview, there was some dead space. There was some a lot of ums, and I think a lot of it had to do with just nerves. As the interview progressed, there was less of it, and so there was less of the edits. That's basically it. But nothing was taken out. In fact, if you guys go into the Discord and you hit the search button, I'm sure you can go back. Before I released it, I informed everybody on the Discord, and that's another plus to being on the Discord. I informed everybody on the Discord that I had interviewed Steve, and I had shown them pictures of the interview. I didn't, release any of the audio or anything like that, but I proved to them that I was like, hey, I interviewed Steve. This is where we're at. This is how long the interview is. And I had a member in the Discord ask me if there was anything going to be edited out. And the first thing I said is, at this point, the only thing I've edited out is a couple of ums and some dead space. We've sent it out to our attorneys, and they're going to look over it, make sure that we didn't violate any gag orders and we didn't violate any crimes. And depending on what they say, there might be more edits. There might not. And as soon as I got word that I could put it out there, I went first to the Discord and said, hey guys, I don't need to edit anything out. We didn't violate anything. And so that's the only thing that came out. I know a lot of people looked at it like, oh my God, he did something. No. I think some people even thought it was AI because they're like, oh, there's an edit here. It's AI or some sort. Yeah, it's complete baloney. And I'm glad that Steve's come out on other channels and has been interviewed and spoken about what he's spoken about in our interview. And it validates the fact that it wasn't AI. I can't believe I have to say that, but it validates that it wasn't AI and the information was accurate. So let's see. All right, I'm going to answer a couple more questions, and that'll be it, guys. Let's see. Tim Collins, the IGG results came back December 19. Makes me wonder if they had a sister's tip, assuming they actually did the thing before or after that. Well, Moscow Police Department learned of Bryan Kohberger's name through the IGG on December 19th. The FBI had his name beforehand. I have under good authority that it was December 12th. There was an article out there that said something about some cameras that were up, but I think it's more prevalent that we find out. I think it was Cyray. He had mentioned that he mentioned that there was this location thing that they did on Bryan Kohberger, and that he didn't understand why they did it if they were already watching him, and this was before December 19th. Well, that's because they had lost him and they needed the help of and that's because of that, that turn he took to go through Colorado to get back through Pennsylvania. And that happened on December 13th. And so they were watching him for at least before then, because he left very early on December 13th. Remember that, early in the morning. So you can deduce that by at least the 12th, they were on to him. And, they had to use that camera to find him, mainly because he made that, like I said, he took that turn and decided to go through Colorado instead to get across the nation. But they were looking for him, and that's why they did a warrant for his locations to find him in present time. Because I remember that testimony with what's his face, Cyray. So yeah, I got a memory. Sometimes I remember things, sometimes I forget things. My wife calls it selective memory, because I'll remember everything except for the chores. All right, maybe DoorDash third. Murphy and Kaylee went downstairs. Xana and Kaylee left the house for a quick walk, and BK thought he had a few minutes, thus 2 floors involved. I don't know. One of the things that I'm interested in seeing is that DoorDash vehicle traveling around at 3:59 or at 4 o'clock. We'll get an idea about that DoorDash video and that DoorDasher then. But let's see. All righty, guys. Well, I think that's going to do it for me. You guys have a great night. Members, tomorrow, be on the Discord. It's going to be at 8 p.m. Central. I'll probably get on there a little bit early, about 7:50-ish, just before the show. I'm not going to interrupt very much. I'm probably just going to do some commentary during the commercial breaks. Again, you're only going to be able to see this on Discord. You're only going to be able to do that as a member. So if you're watching this on the replay crew, make sure you hit that join button, get into the Discord, and be ready tomorrow at about 7:45 p.m. Central Time, because we're going to end up watching this. And, you know, depending on how I feel and how things go, I might go live afterwards. But I'm probably leaning more towards Sunday, guys. That's probably going to be when it is, but it depends. It depends on how tomorrow goes. If I wake up early Saturday and I have enough time to break down the 1112 King Road video, then we may do that Saturday morning. It may be Saturday night. Like I said, Saturday is a busy day for me. We're going to be celebrating a little girl's second birthday. So, guys, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification button, the whole 9 yards. Until next time, guys, we'll see y'all later.